Welcome back to ISME Insights. So my guest today is Ruth Clarke, who is managing partner of Six, who are a marketing and branding agency and also a B Corp. The theme today is unfreezing marketing, bringing the human lens back to the age of AI. This episode explores how marketing and leadership can stay deeply human in an age shaped by automation and AI. Ruth Clarke joins us to discuss how creativity, culture and emotional intelligence help teams to reconnect with purpose, unlock innovation and lead with empathy. So AI may be transforming how marketing is done, but it hasn't changed why it matters. I'm going to move on to you, Ruth. So, I know you've had a really varied and interesting career and you've been with Six for a very, very long time. But from your early days in brand and communications to now leading one of Bristol's most respected B Corp agencies, can you tell us a bit about your journey and how it shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
Hi, Cathy.
Hi.
Yeah, wow, that all sounds quite impressive, doesn't it? Yes, a very varied career, but within Six for a majority of that journey, I would say. Yeah, I think, gosh, how far back do you want to go? I always loved advertising, always wanted to be in advertising and communications, and that's what I studied, and that's what I qualified in. So I was like, like a lot of people in, marketing, what do I do with this? And I did a few things before meeting John and Steve, who are the original founders of Six.
Yeah.
And then when I met them and met the business, I just kind of fell in love, I guess, with the opportunity to work in something quite small. There was about 5 of us at the time, and build something quite exciting. Yeah, I mean, it was literally, as you can imagine, late 90s, early 2000s design agency where we were working really late. On all sorts of different things, and worked on so many different brands, and I learned a hell of a lot, and I was literally like a sponge to that sort of world. So absolutely fell in love with that. And then it's things that I'd kind of learned before kind of felt like it all just clicked and came into place. So really getting to know the design industry was really, really cool. And then I guess, like, fast forward, we've now got 25 people within the business, and we've, changed the business massively, obviously, in 30 years. But I guess for me personally, it's always been, that more relationship side, marketing side, and then about 2019, I qualified in CIPD in HR. And that was because of the work that we were sort of doing in internal communications. And there was just a sense of kind of like, there's got to be more than just communications around how we can kind of, put value to our work, I suppose. And by doing that qualification, it enabled me to really understand more, I suppose, from a people perspective, that, what organisations were trying to do more strategically. And as soon as I got my teeth into culture and change, I haven't been able to let it go, I suppose. So for me, that's been quite a sort of defining moment around my career. I don't know how that's affected my leadership. Maybe, I think, because of, you can only sort of study so much. It's putting that into practice around seeing different styles and of leadership and knowing what good looks like. And I guess, we're all conditioned to think that you've got to be a certain way and behave a certain way as a leader. And as a female, growing up within an agency that was quite small, with, a lot of different types of clients, boardrooms, and being exposed to lots of different types of leaders, I guess I thought that was the way that you had to kind of behave and be.
Yes, okay.
But actually, what's defined me, I suppose, on that journey is learning so much more about the effect that you have as a leader on people. So that's kind of,
that's
my journey.
Because one of the reasons that we connected in the first place, and the reason we know each other, is through LinkedIn. And actually you were talking a lot about you struck me as somebody who was a real kind of advocate for the change in making culture, you know, a big part of the conversation in a workplace and creating really positive work cultures. And I think it was posts that you were putting out on LinkedIn that really resonated with me, and I then commented, and and so we ended up. I think I commented on posts, and then we bumped into each other at an event.
I saw you at an event,
and you were like, "I know you, I know you,
so
but we've never met before." And I'm like, "No, we're like LinkedIn connections." But actually, it was just that common kind of thread around really being interested in people and interested in behaviours, and actually how you can really create that positive work environment and how much better that is for any organisation. And I think we both kind of sung from the same hymn book with that.
I know, and it's you know, going back to kind of that sense of impact that you have on people as well. And I think you don't get that from a CIPD qualification, by the way. But it gives you an understanding as to kind of like the business pressures around sort of, you know, measuring performance, efficiency, etc., and then how we try to hold people to account. But then the human element of that is quite often lost, and that's the bit I feel quite passionate about. Is like, you know, how do we free up, you know, ourselves to kind of lead more authentically? So I think that's probably where my posts were coming from.
Yeah. Well, they certainly landed with me. So we've just said, like, you know, Six has evolved a lot over the years, from a creative agency to one deeply rooted in purpose and culture. What's driven that evolution? I mean, you've just said part of that was doing your CIPD. So did that bit come from you? Did you sort of go back into the agency? We need to be doing more around culture. How did that
would have been a good move, wouldn't it? I guess we'd always worked in that space,
right?
So we've always worked with, you know, change consultants, you know, organisational design side of things. We've always worked in sort of that transformation space with partners.
Okay.
So it may be working with, you know, sort of your larger sort of consultancies and things like that. We've always been then able to, I guess, bring those strategies to life, and that's how we used to sort of describe ourselves, as kind of being able to be that sort of bridge between strategy and then sort of be able to drive communications. But I guess what's changed predominantly, I guess, in the last 7 years is more sort of just getting deeper into that human behaviour. Why do we need to do this? How? What's happening, you know, around us, outside the organisations that we work with, as well as what's going on internally, and how do we correlate that with then driving action? I'm deeply fascinated by the link between employee experience and customer experience, and that's really how Six has now evolved into that more sort of sweet spot around brand and culture. So we're not just a culture organisation, design agency, creative agency. It is much more around, okay, how do we create the right environment for us to be able to deliver on our brand promises or deliver on our proposition to our customers. And we work a lot in B2B. So again, you know, you've got a lot of businesses which are driven by logic, data, efficiency, performance, and where we can come in and kind of bring that human element to how they then activate those strategies is kind of where we've evolved to. So I wouldn't say it was down to me at all, but I am very passionate about it, and I think what we've done now is sort of build the capability of the business around some of that. But it is that link between people, whether it's your customers, whether it's your partners, your investors, or if it's your people themselves. So does that kind of make sense? Yeah,
it does. So just thinking about that, making kind of a business more human, what does that really look like? What do you do when you go into an organisation to try and help them work through that?
That's a really, really good question. Just to be clear, it isn't about saying things like AI are bad. Not at all. No. Absolutely not. We use AI in our work. We are helping our clients figure out what, you know, where they should be innovating, especially in the marketing space, actually. So, you know, being able to create the right story and narrative for technology is so important. So what human means to us is being able to, well, it's varied. It'll be about being able to translate a strategy into something that is going to move people. So we're not doing something to them, something where people can feel part of it, where they're aligned, where they understand it, where they're pointing in the right direction. And that will speak to different audiences. And that could be a business that's kind of transforming into a completely different space, or it could be just because they've, gone through a lot of structure changes, for example. Like, how do we tell that's the right story? It's surprising because quite often, a lot of leaders that we work with aren't aligned around the same story. So it's not just around, we've got a 20-page deck, PowerPoint deck. Can you make it look nice? We actually go in and unpick it, and we'll say, where's the data for this? How do we link that? Or what's the customer journey around this? And so we'll want to dig deeper, whether it's into data, personas, we'll do focus groups, we'll go out and do listening, and all of those sorts of elements of kind of discovery, if you like, to be able to bring that back into creating something, an experience that is more human and speaks to various audiences. So one example of that will be, we're working with an organisation at the moment who, they've been around for a really, really long time, and they are stuck. They're going, we need to transform our systems, our capability. Our customers don't really understand what we do. So they are going through everything, and we've just been working with them for the last couple of months to really. They've got a strategy which is great, but it's dry. It's like unpicking it. Are you talking about taking your business to a leapfrog, or are you just talking about here? Because there's a real mixed understanding at an exec level about what you're trying to do. And the CEO will take it. So, you may have a CEO that's very personable and able to articulate that, or you'll have somebody that talks more in digits and clicks, and and that's the bit I love, is where we kind of sort of really unpick that to make something translate into something meaningful for people.
And I guess I know some of the clients that you work with, they're quite big corporations. I guess that can be a bit of a challenge as well, that you can be working with one particular part of that business, but actually that message, that human kind of lens that you're shining with needs to go across every kind of area. But actually you're only working with a smaller part. Is that sometimes a challenge?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, you're right, Cathy. So, some businesses, we're really lucky that we get to work with more of the sort of, I would say, larger businesses, but, they still may only have 1,500 people, for example. When you're working with your larger corporates, you're right, you're working within a specific part of the business. So for one of those at the moment, we're helping them describe their AI and agentic offering internally to their developers, their leaders, their employees.
Right, okay.
Because they can't promote themselves internally about what they do to the rest of the business.
Okay.
So,
so
again, it's kind of value proposition, sort of storytelling type element, and then what we'll then do is go, how do we then embed this? How do we take it to those different? So we'll give them messaging frameworks, or we might create a campaign, but it's kind of ongoing.
And when you touched upon kind of AI with that as well, I guess that is that part of some of the work you do, in the sense of trying to, because AI needs prompting, it needs the information in order to be able to do its job. Do you help some of your customers with almost storytelling to an AI robot to try and be?
Ooh.
No.
Look, excuse me. Our clients are using AI anyway, so they're not coming to us to buy AI. They don't need to. We wouldn't be. That's not what we're sort of selling.
No.
So, I guess for us, it's about connecting. So, a lot of our clients are rubbish with data. For example.
Okay.
It's there. What do we do with it? How can we use AI to, dig deeper into that? How do we create the right personalisation? How do we create the right personas? And so, running something like an innovation workshop, for example, will help them just think about things slightly differently. There's a lot of fear still within organisations around AI. There's one particular client, again, who, a lot of roles are being replaced with chatbots, especially in sort of customer service areas. And that's a real threat to that business, because culturally then you've got morale sort of going down. You've got people that are deeply stressed. But then you've also got, heads of marketing that are kind of figuring out how to structure their teams around AI. So there's a lot of sort of big questions. So I guess in answer to your question, we don't go in and sort of teach them how to use it. It's more around thinking about what is the opportunity with technology to make it more human, because you can. And I always feel like there's a really great line, I can't remember who said it now, but it's around, you know, turning intelligence into impact.
Yeah,
and I think that's we've got the ability and capability to be able to understand the technology and the data, but then we've also got the capability to humanise it from a storytelling and experience and creativity point of view.
Amazing. Why do you think it's so easy for organisations to lose the human touch as they grow or transform, and actually AI is a big part of that they may lose that human element? How do they kind of navigate that?
I guess, like, it does go back to how an organisation grows and structures itself. I mean, I love thinking a bit more about progressive structures, and, you know, the hierarchy that we see in most organisations has been around for, you know, hundreds of years.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, the first boardroom dates back to 1600 and something, doesn't it? So it's kind of, you know, so I do feel like there is an opportunity to kind of like unfreeze certain parts of how organisations operate. But obviously, you know, again, we work in engineering. That's one of our sort of sectors, and you know, that's a really tricky one to kind of think about humanisation. If you go in there and talk to engineering about making it more human, what are you on about? So we have to, you know, think about what that really means to our clients, I suppose. But yeah, on the growth question, I think, you know, do you follow Corporate Rebels on LinkedIn?
I've heard of them, but no, I don't.
They're quite fun. You
okay.
know, they will say what you're kind of thinking, which is quite nice, around, you know, business is broken, structures are, you know, out the window. And there's a great book that I read recently called Reinventing Organisations, which talks about how business structure has evolved over time. And I think we're in the teal area now, where, you know, it's kind of, you know, I'll decide what you're, you know, how much holiday you'll take, and, you know, it's pretty, you know, flat structure and pretty teal, I think. So, which is really extreme. And, you know, a lot of these organisations are trying to shift and turn into a different space, and, you know, it takes a long time. It's
behavioural change, isn't it, for people as well?
And I think losing people is quite easy. I mean, you've got 5 generations, haven't you, in the workplace? So as you grow, thinking about how, you kind of...
You adapt. Yeah.
Very tricky.
Yeah, we often have conversations about Gen Z, don't we, and kind of how you evolve around that to kind of, you know, have a workplace that is kind of right for everybody. And we've all, you know, you're talking about 5 different generations, we've all got very different views on how work should be done, and what flexibility should look like, and what, you know, whether you need to be looking after well-being, and, you know, you'll have maybe someone in an older generation sometimes saying, well, no, we just don't, we work 60 hours. Well, no, that's not okay. We're not going to do that. So.
Well, do you know, it's interesting about the sort of the 60-hour thing, because, I mean, there's also, you know, digital stress as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Massive pressure. And, you know, I was thinking about this the other day around the responsibility you have as an employer. And so the bigger you get, you've obviously got more people, you've got more problems. And, you know, well-being and stress and, you know, is huge. You know, so I think that is a real problem for growth. Yeah,
absolutely. The idea of unfreezing marketing feels really relevant. But what inspired that phrase? Where did that come from? Can you remember?
So I've been talking to a few kind of CMOs recently, and there is this kind of paralysis of like, you know, we can use AI for automation and efficiency. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But is it just making our marketing vanilla? Is it really touching, you know, and we all know, don't we, that, you know, you're scrolling and content is here today, gone tomorrow, and nobody's paying attention to anything, and everything's fake anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that kind of, I guess, when I was trying to translate that back into what we do at Six, and how we can really help kind of unfreeze that paralysis around, okay, you know, making it more authentic, thinking about the actual human being, and what is it you're trying to drive action for? What are we trying to activate? You know, I was thinking about, that kind of, where marketing just starts to feel quite kind of samey and vanilla.
Yeah.
And it's great, you know, if you're just chucking out content.
For getting inspiration and things like that. But I mean, I was talking to a CMO myself last week who was saying, actually, I think AI is going to really allow really talented marketeers to stand out, because everything is being regurgitated. And also the other thing we were discussing is that, you know, obviously AI is taking, you know, content that is out there in the, you know, the World Wide Web and then pulling it all together for you. But actually, if we start to just all be spouting out the same thing, then where does the new stuff come from? Like, it's not... So over time, it almost becomes even worse.
I know. And I think there's a brilliant opportunity around, you know, interactivity. So did you ever... I can't remember the name of the Coca-Cola campaign a couple of years ago. Was it called Create Magic or something like that? I think it was called.
Oh, I don't know.
And they used... so it was basically... getting customers or audiences to kind of use AI to design the next Coca-Cola design. So using the Coca-Cola logo, because you know they're known for their creativity in different ways, like, you know, obviously with the Christmas adverts and things like that. But you know, so there was a competition, and then anyone that kind of got through, I think they picked 5 people, and then they had a 3-day workshop with Coca-Cola as a prize.
Oh, wow.
But it was using AI to kind of interact with their brand to redesign some of their campaigns, basically. But just going out to like their customers to do that, which I thought was pretty cool.
And I guess that's demonstrating you need the creativity side of it to kind of feed into the AI part. Like the ideas still need to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and I think, you know, certainly some marketing teams, some even HR teams are saying, oh, we know we should be doing this sort of stuff, but we're only really just scratching the surface. So when you kind of start combining that with more of that human interactivity element, or how we can personalise something, give a much more tailored experience, it actually gets quite exciting. I think, you know, ChatGPT is one thing that we kind of all use in our daily life now, but there is so much more we can do. Yeah,
and so many more tools, aren't there? What role do things like emotion, empathy and storytelling play in that process?
Oh, massively. Yeah, huge. I mean, just talking to you know, when we talk, you know, we trust each other. You know,
absolutely.
we've got eye contact. But you know, we already built that trust upon LinkedIn before we even met in real life. So you think about those different sort of interactions. I guess that's huge, isn't it? Especially around brand loyalty and brand trust.
And I guess that storytelling piece of you know, taking people on that journey and kind of taking them somewhere else, or wherever that story is going to take them is so important as well.
We've done it for ourselves, and you know, we've had to evolve several times, you know, at Six, and we haven't gone through sort of wholesale reinvention, but you know, we have been on a journey the last couple of years to really think about, well, what does all this mean to our future, and will we still be relevant in the next 5 to 10 years, and how do we adopt that? So we've created our own story, if you like, and it's amazing because we thought that our own people kind of understood what we did, where we wanted to sort of take the business, but it wasn't until we got them to kind of help create that story and that vision piece that I can hear people now in the office kind of going, oh God, I really get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's because they've been involved in writing it. It's exactly the same if you go into the boardroom of a big financial services organisation and go, okay, so how are we going to tell ourselves the right story? So I think storytelling is massive.
Absolutely. And actually getting your team involved in some of that to solidify their understanding, whether it's getting them involved in reshaping values in an organisation, looking at a mission statement, any of those kind of things. Once they actually are part of creating that, they live and breathe it. It works so much more effectively than just kind of telling them something that 100%. That just kind of maybe sits on a wall and then they never read it. You recently wrote about storytelling being the bridge between logic and emotion. I think you must have done on LinkedIn. Why do you think storytelling is such a powerful leadership and marketing tool?
Oh my goodness me. You need to speak to our strategy partner, Marcus, because this is what he gets out of bed for every morning. But I think it's an emotion, right? It's when somebody tells you something, whether it's deeply personal or whether it's, you know, something that is going to drive a response, it's got to hit you somewhere.
Yeah.
I never forget, you know, we work with a very large engineering organisation, I won't say who, where we were asked to create a story and a video to talk about their plans for net zero 2030 and how they were going to be reinventing their world. And we could have created something that was just kind of, you know, the world's on fire, it's burning, and the usual sort of narrative, if you like, but we have to change and this is what we're going to do. But we didn't. It was a lot softer, and it was a beautiful poem brought together in a film, and it was only ever going to be shown at this kind of leadership event, and it went down so well. I think a couple of people cried, which is always a really good emotion.
Always good
always
when
want a bit
someone
of
cry, yeah.
But they then said, we want to take this and actually, you know, use this as part of our brand message and story. So, you know, how do you describe the importance of that? I don't know.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Psychological safety is something that you're also passionate about. How do leaders create a culture where people feel safe to speak up, experiment and fail? Yeah,
this is what I've been talking to a client about recently as well, actually. I think it's, like, for us at Six, it's a bit easier because we're a small business, right? So we have to be quite transparent. I mean, God, don't get me wrong, I've got loads of stuff wrong. Yeah. And I've learned massively.
And I think that's absolutely okay. I think we have to have a culture where it's okay to get stuff wrong and encourage that.
And I think that just by standing up and saying, I've got it wrong, even though they knew it was wrong probably months before I did, and I was like, no, this is the right thing to do. Yeah. And it's like, no, actually, it's wrong. And I think... for me, I think listening is the biggest. It's the biggest learning I've had, definitely, as a leader now in Six. It's really listening to people, and it's not just listening and going, "Oh, I'm going to deliver what you want," but it's knowing and understanding what's important to them. You can do that individually when you've got a small business. On a larger business, it's a lot harder, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the thing that I think is also key in that is allowing people to have a voice, and that's everyone within an organisation, even if they're, you know, new or very inexperienced in their role and may feel that their opinion isn't gonna add as much value as someone else's, or they can possibly bring something else to the table. But absolutely everybody can, and you have to find a way to allow those people to feel comfortable enough that they have a voice within an organisation.
I think you have to be clear. There's a balance, isn't there, around being really, really clear, and I think that sometimes we're not clear in business, and that's really unfair on people, actually, because your expectations are here, but actually people are very confused, and I think that goes back to your storytelling. It goes back to time, really getting to know people, and I think, you know, we talk about the frozen middle, don't we, managers, and how tricky that is to get people to kind of be consistent. A lot of the work, again, that we do in the kind of employee value proposition space is to try and get some consistency with managers about how they manage, what they do, and how they do that. And that could be, again, tricky when you've got lots of different styles and generations and all of that sort of thing. So
Do you think we're seeing a shift in what people expect from brands and from their workplaces when it comes to authenticity or purpose?
Yeah, I think there has been a shift already. I think, and that will continue. I think, dare I say it, purpose was huge for us as a kind of, like, we were doing a lot of purpose work, if you like. So helping organisations describe their purpose, or understand where they could be living their purpose. Was huge, and I would say that has waned, actually. I'm seeing the backdrop of what's kind of happening with Trump and Russia and everything. It has definitely, you know, a lot of clients that we have in the States, for example, are just like, we don't really know what we should be saying, or we're going to just kind of delay our plans by another 5-10 years, and, you know, and obviously changes in government, all of those kind of things, which I don't know massively about, but
that's a real shame, isn't it?
It's I think it's not that there's a backlash, but there's definitely more sort of different priorities, I would say. And I think the AI conversation has dominated
Yes.
business more than purpose, actually.
Yeah. And actually, since I've been doing these podcast interviews, I think pretty much every conversation there has been an element of discussing AI.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what excites you most about the next few years of marketing and creativity?
What excites me the most? I think I was saying to somebody in the office the other day, I'm probably still going to be here when I'm 80, like sitting in the corner going, oh, I remember when they invented AI. Because I am really fascinated to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I would love to see closer work between the technology and creativity. That was just one example of this, the Coca-Cola thing, probably a really bad example, but there's so much more we can be doing in that space, and I just would like to see maybe some braver decisions from marketing. That would be really cool.
Interesting. How do you think the best brands will stand out in an increasingly automated world?
Did you see The Ordinary advertising recently?
As in the skincare brand?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, it was. That was pretty. I thought that was pretty standout, actually.
So what was it?
It was. So they've gone back to the science. They're saying it's the science. So they've literally stripped away any kind of, BS around makeup promising, or skincare promising you to be anti-aging.
Right.
They've taken it all back to the science, and it's just a really cool, powerful campaign. So I think that's quite exciting.
Yeah. And that's quite a brand that appeals to younger people, and you often just see that kind of go down the route of influencers telling people how wonderful it is. And I think even young people, even my own 12-year-old, I think, can see through a lot of that now, and they're starting to question, well, actually they're just being paid to promote that, and is the product really any good? So actually taking it back to that scientific stuff, which is actually why this product will work.
It's a very cool campaign. Have a look. But I think the other side, I would love to see brands using AI in a way that promotes purpose. There's some very cool things that are happening around sustainability and technology, which I think, again, it's not about saying one is better than the other, or we shouldn't be doing that because, we're all going to burn from the data that's kind of being, the data
centres kind of thing,
I think there's got to be a way of being able to actually bring that together into a cohesive story to do something for good.
Okay, amazing. And finally, if you could leave our listeners with one thought about unfreezing marketing, what would it be?
I wrote this down because I knew you were going to ask me that, and I'm going to grab my notes because as ever, hang on.
That is fine.
I couldn't think of one thing.
So have we got a list?
So you might have a list. Hang on. Bear with me. I'm going to find it really quickly.
Right.
If you could leave our listeners with one thing, here we go. I knew you were going to ask me this. Okay, yes, I would say, I should have remembered this. Don't let progress make you freeze.
Oh, okay.
Don't have any fear.
So as in you've progressed, you've got there, and then you stop. But actually, no, that always needs to continue. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess so. But also, don't be fearful.
Okay.
So just because things are progressing and you're not quite sure, don't let that freeze you.
And I guess you could sort of link that in with the whole AI bit in the sense of like that's progress. Technology is advancing. Yeah. But don't just freeze, and you need to kind of keep up and move with it.
Well, exactly. I think technology isn't really the problem. It's how we use it and what we do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You shouldn't have any fear around that side of. I think it is about how we're learning to adapt and work alongside it and get the best out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's been really great. Thank you so much, Ruth, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's great.
Good to speak.
You too. See you on LinkedIn.